Hey,
Hey, hey, hey. Thank you for coming out and joining us for another episode of Melanated and Candid Productions, The Color of Truth. So today we're going to be jumping back into some political conversations. We got a couple of good things to share with everybody. Thank you for coming out and joining us. Before we get started, I am going to introduce my lovely co-host. Hi, ladies. How are you today?
hey. Doing okay, still tired, still worn out, still beat up. Kids still beat me up.
One day at a time. One day at a time.
I tell you, I'm chilling. Just working. It's that time of year, so just working. But you sound you was typing away over there for a second, ma'am.
Yeah. Just trying to get my stuff together. I'm trying not to struggle stream, okay, y'all. I'm trying to keep it flowing so we not struggle streaming, so that we can keep it flowing for everybody. So yeah,
That's what's up.
that's all that is. I do be typing hard and fast. People be talking about me all the time, real bad.
Cause you was going to town for a hot second.
It be a struggle. That's my thing.
She multitasking, doing 4 or 5 different businesses, multitasking. She a serial entrepreneur.
For sure. For sure. So, without further ado, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get into this first video. Or, I'm sorry, this one is not a video. This one is actually an article that we're going to talk about. And this article might be a little bit shocking because it was shocking to me when I read it. I don't know. Y'all let us know in the comments what y'all think about this one right here because, yeah.
I think there is a video on that one though. I think there's a video.
Yeah,
There
the
is a
top.
video for this. Okay.
That one right there.
I definitely scrolled right on past it and went straight to reading the
I
article.
did too. That's why I was like, I didn't see that. About
And
that.
I clicked play and bypass the reading.
Did you?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you were like, no, I watched the video.
I was like, it got juicy down here. Wait a minute.
And it doesn't look like it wants you to play it either.
I know, right? Now it's gonna act funny. It was just shared just a second ago. Didn't I just say that I wasn't trying to do no struggle streaming today?
Yes.
Take it off and bring it back up.
And look, here we go with the video. Trying to struggle.
No.
About to be on my nerves already. Wait a minute, let's see. Let's try one more time. Because if it don't come up this time, then I'm going to dump on it and I'm going to go on to the next one.
Okay.
And then we'll just come back and catch it later if we can. Like they
Yeah, it
did,
doesn't want you to be great.
like they did Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie. All right, whatever. That's fine.
Well, I
That's
Well,
was
just a
crazy, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm muted. Wait a minute, I can't talk."
well, just an overview of what it was. So the Supreme Court is hearing a case where they are talking about removing affirmative action from college admissions. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. But yeah, if we can get it up, we'll share. But yeah, so the Supreme Court is actually hearing a case right now. So they'll be making a decision soon on whether or not they will be removing affirmative action.
Yeah. So, I mean,
In regards to race specifically,
was affirmative
But
action ever really useful though?
well, I'm just saying,
I mean, was it ever
it
really?
was on the surface, but it was on the surface. But it I can see that argument from both ways. I can see the benefits and I can see the downfalls of it.
I
So
can't.
I'm kind
That's
of,
why I was like, yeah, let's read it. It was good. Like,
yeah, I can see
okay,
the
I
ups and
can see
downs of them actually
exactly.
removing that.
And then that's where the actual essay will come into play.
Right.
I
But one
mean,
of the,
but to me, it feels like, okay, you give me this essay to write about what specific, are you going to give me a specific topic to write about? Because everybody's mindset is going to be geared towards their own personal life experiences and the things that they've gone through in their short time in life. And we all know that our experiences are not the same. And we know that there's going to be a clear distinction of what the essay, who the essay belongs to based on what it's about. Like, seriously.
Right. So there, it's more in regards to the cultural differences. So it would be more in regards to, you know, um, your specifically your culture, your mean your life, your you. I'm
see, I
assuming.
think there are ways around that. Two
Right.
people can write an essay from two different walks of life. They don't have to be personal in experience. You can write an essay on a particular moment in history that everyone is required to write. For this year's admission, everyone has to write an essay on this particular moment in history. Whatever historic event you want to write, whatever historic event they choose. So I think there are ways around it. But I do agree that in some way, form, or fact, in some way, form, or fashion, affirmative action is racist in and of itself, even though it was designed to eliminate discrimination by race. But to hire somebody specifically because of their race, how is that not reverse racism? So you could have, so say you've got 1,000 employees and you got to have 15% of them have to be melanated or other, right? And so you have two candidates currently, one that happens to be a wonderful person, one happens to be a beautiful person, or anybody other than a wonderful person. Say the wonderful person's resume actually does outshine the other individuals. Are you saying that because I have a certain quota to make, that I have to hire the person that's less qualified at this moment in time? Because at the current moment in time, I'm not at a specific quota that I need to be at. So I get why
So you,
affirmative action was brought into place, but also it also could have a reverse effect, in
mhm,
all honesty. And there are times where that means that sometimes you're not qualified for the job. And even if you look at for instance, look at the VP.
mhm.
She's not qualified for that job. I don't care how much you want to parade around about black girl magic. I don't care how much you want to parade around the idea that we got the first black VP. She's not qualified for the job. And in all honesty, when Biden made that selection, he made the selection because she was one, black, two, a woman. No different from when he appointed Justice Ketanji Jackson Brown. He was looking for one black, two woman. That's just the matter. So everything else, all the other credentials that come with you, they're null and void at that moment in time. And I'm not saying that she's not qualified for the job. What I am saying is her credentials isn't necessarily what was front and center. What was front and center was black and woman. So if you tell me that I'm only looking for a black woman, does that not discriminate against everybody else if that's the only thing that you're looking for, regardless of credentials? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one to say that, hey, sometimes you get what you give in life. But at the same time, you can't say we are, you can't say we're all kumbaya. And there are still language that makes us divided, that keeps us divided, that separates us into certain classes. So the language in and of itself can be divisive. Just the language can be divisive. So you can't say we live in an environment where there is no more racism, but we have laws that are designed for a specific race. How can racism not exist when there are laws for a particular race?
Because to them, racism doesn't exist. They don't consider what they do to be racist. They consider it to be natural and normal.
But when you have a anti-Asian Pacific Island Pacific hate crime bill, that is specific to a race of people. So how can you say that America is not racist and we have language in current laws and bills that are drafted that separate us into classes of people by race?
Because they're going to say that's just a protection for the classes of people. Those are
But
just
I'm just saying,
it's all about the wording.
but if you couldn't do it specifically for us, why could you do it specifically for them?
Oh, they could have did it specifically for us. They didn't want to.
True.
They didn't.
But like I said, but I do see the ups and downs. I see where it could have reverse effects. I actually do see that. Don't get me wrong, I understand why it was put in place, but I could see where it would have those adverse effects. And you can't claim to reside in a place where the language doesn't necessarily fit the everyday walk of life.
So
What's on paper doesn't match the way you claim to live.
I agree. I think that it's already bad. Affirmative action was put into place to supposedly protect us and help us to be able to thrive and grow up under the economy that we live in. And taking it away, utilizing essays in colleges, I believe that it's only going to pose a greater problem later on. It'll create a different sort of bias when all you have are a bunch of beautiful people who are applying to go to school and can't even get into the historically black colleges that they're used to that were created for them because their essay didn't fit the criteria that was necessary in order for them to qualify. On the other hand, there's all these wonderful people that are going to come in and their essays are going to fit. And I feel like it's going to hold us back from being able to grow, and it's going to hinder us from being able to sign up and go to college by the masses.
Now, I see what you're saying, but I somewhat disagree because I don't think the kid who wants to go to Harvard is all of a sudden going to want to go to Spelman just because the affirmative action is no longer on the cards. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that's necessarily going to change the dynamic of the HBCUs.
The culture change though.
And it might, but there are, but see, to me, the adverse effects of removing the language of affirmative action or removing race from application, to me, is not enough. And I've always said, in order to end a lot of the racial disparities when you were talking about employment or housing, you can't just remove race, because there are so many other things that you put on an application that could be just as discriminatory or provide just as much detail about an individual. Zip codes are discriminatory. Addresses are discriminatory. In all actuality, names are discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
They can be discriminatory. So for me, I've always said this. Say you go to an environment. So you got the what's the site now? Indeed. So everybody uploads a resume in Indeed, right? So Indeed has this catalog of everybody's resume. Now, when resumes are submitted to a selecting official or somebody who would be making the decision on who gets the job, I think that they should come with no identifying information about an individual whatsoever. I think they should be assigned a number, and that's all you see is a number assigned to this application, and all you get is their credentials. If a college education is necessary, a particular degree, the degree can be mentioned, but the college doesn't need to be mentioned either, because that can be just as discriminatory. Spelman is discriminatory.
Right.
So I think there are ways to address it, but just removing race is not going to be enough. They're going to have to remove all identifying information about an individual and only leave actual credentials. And that's it. And then the best man or woman gets the job based on credentials and credentials alone. It doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your sexual identity. None of that matters. The most qualified person, credential wise, I don't want to say education wise, but whatever the required degree is, you just have to have that. I don't care if it came from Harvard. I don't care where, Notre Dame. I don't care where it came from. As long as you have this particular degree, you can be considered. But I think there are ways around it, but just removing race is nowhere near enough because there are so many other things that you could use to be racially biased against an individual or to assume racial bias.
Right. To utilize and identify. So, all right. What I'm going to do now is I am going to go over here and see if we can catch this next video. That had all of these conspiracy theories on it when it comes to. Let's see if we can get it. Can we get it? Oh. Um, so the Michigan GOP gubernatorial nominee is basically saying that the Democrats are trying to topple the United States in retaliation for losing the Civil War. They're saying that the reason that Democrats are getting ready to destroy everything is because they lost the Civil War was lost, and they've
Are
been
they
One
plotting.
way to say you big mad.
Are they serious?
It was
They
like they big mad.
All these years, really? Y'all serious?
Hey, but you know what? I've asked that question about people. So there are stories and you know people who travel 45 minutes to go fight somebody. So in 45 minutes you've been in your car hopping mad, like for real. For real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So hey,
Dang.
and in all honesty, it's not like just losing the Civil War was one to frown upon. If you lost the Civil War and you lost the actual concept or idea of having slaves, having that free and cheap labor,
Exactly.
to you that's not just a loss.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another thing that bothers me about the whole reparations conversation is that
Mm-hmm.
slave owners got paid reparations twice. We
Exactly.
can't get paid reparations once.
Not once. Look at TT. Welcome.
Let that sink in. The slave
Right.
owners got reparations twice for losing.
There's no descendants fundings. There's no nothing. Run somebody some type of money of melanated skin. Is this a video?
Yeah. You good, Rox?
Is it not working?
No,
Oh,
Rox is
oh
oh,
okay.
you didn't see it.
Yeah.
You didn't see it.
Right. Scroll down. Scroll up real quick.
You missed it,
No.
Nisi.
Oh,
Hey, 15 seconds of fame.
hey, yeah, I seen her a minute ago.
Oh, okay. You got it, Rox, or you want somebody to take it? So, in a 6-minute monologue at the beginning of the show, Dixon basically made a statement that attempted creation of Black House and autonomous zones outside of the White House, referring to a cordoned off area near the White House, erected by the activists that Democrats were using the moment to topple the U.S. So, go ahead. So she goes on to say the country today is divided, and true, it is. The country is divided, and this was the plan. It's been in the work for years, and the idea that you can topple the greatest country in the world. But to topple a country like the United States of America, you must be planning this for decades, said Dixon. Why wouldn't that come from the party that lost the Civil War? The party that wanted to own people because they viewed them as less than human. Do you think that Democrats are over losing the North? That's a very good question. Now, I'm not the one to delve
no,
off and solve the crazy
no.
conspiracy theories, but that
Yeah.
is a very good question
Right.
because
She
you got
ready?
to think about the magnitude of losing the Civil War. It wasn't just a war. You
Right.
to lose in the world of capitalism, to lose free and cheap labor.
That part. The it it was so devastating to them. Okay. The
Right.
loss of human servants was so devastating to them. Them people didn't know how to go on. They got so used to not doing
Exactly.
stuff for themselves
Say
and not
that.
having to work
That's
for
their problem.
themselves
That
and
was their issue.
slaving us, working us overtime. That
They
they
so
didn't know
used
how
to somebody taking care of them. They want their mammies. No, ain't nobody want you.
yeah, they didn't know how to survive without them. That's why they were willing to do anything to be able to keep them.
with all them
Right.
with all these laws. But go ahead, keep going. I
Uh,
can't. I keep trying to scroll, girl.
So during the Civil War, the Democratic Party itself was divided on the issues of slavery, as some Democrats wanted to expand slavery into the West, and others wanted to leave it up to referenda in the new territories. It was that divide that led to President Abraham Lincoln's victory in 1860 election. 100 years later, however, after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Democratic Party lost more and more Southern white voters to Republicans who adopted the mantra of states' rights and the Southern strategy to appeal to conservative white voters. Dixon went on to claim that Democrats used the COVID-19 pandemic and the killing of Floyd to divide the country and feed white people white guilt so they
mm.
can assume power and gladly own and enslave peoples of color again.
They said
So,
all colors though.
Now
Look,
listen, did you
all
see how?
people.
Now listen how. Remember you were saying. Now I just want people to think about this. Remember you were saying that. What was that? It was a generational curse for people to melanated
Vote
people
straight
to vote for
Democrat.
what? For what?
The vote straight Democrat is a generational curse.
Right. And what is wrong with that? Because in history, who set slaves free?
Republicans.
So why
It was
is
a
it?
Republican president.
So why is it we
hmm.
are
Why
so
are we Democrats?
confused?
And you remember that just like the other day, I brought up the fact about the Voting Rights Act. The
Yeah.
Voting Rights Act in itself, first of all, Black America got the right to vote two times. The first time in 1870, when all men got the right to vote, but that still didn't stop the whole Jim Crow, antebellum,
Exactly.
all that era. It didn't
Mhm.
stop none of that stuff.
Right.
So basically, what they did was, even though all men had the right to vote, they set up tests and different kind of taxes to
Mm-hmm.
basically make it difficult for Black people to vote. So the addition or the addendum to the Voting Rights Act was that they provided government protections that would not allow for the test. So of course, reading tests was one of them back in the day. Um, of course, not having to pay taxes that, of course, most of them couldn't afford to pay if you didn't have a job, or if you were making slave wages, you couldn't afford to pay it. So when they did away with all that, but the funny thing is that's not unlimited in America. Our right to vote, or the protections of our right to vote, actually expires in 2031. It was re-established or extended by President Bush in 2006. What's funny though is it's only been extended four times throughout history. It was Nixon, Ford, Reagan, and Bush. Those are
And
the
they
only
are
four
all what?
presidents. All four Republicans.
All what
So
again?
But
all
wait.
Republicans. But what's funny
Exactly.
about that, Roxy, what's funny about that is we're currently in an environment where one of the things that the Democrats is pushing is this whole idea about we got to protect democracy, right? They're stuck on the idea of J6. They don't want Trump to be in office. They've been censoring everybody who's anti this, anti that, conspiracy this. So they're so stuck on we've got to protect democracy. So we currently have a Democratic president who claims to be in favor of us and all of our initiatives, and we got to protect the Black vote. We got to protect people of color at the voting polls. We've got to protect voter integrity and elections and all that. If we currently have an administration who happens to be Democrat, who happens to be touting around the idea about the sanctity and democracy and voting, then why is it that what's not at the top of their agenda is them codifying the Voting Rights Act that allows us protections indefinitely?
They don't care
Why
about
are
it
they
Right.
not talking about that?
Right.
because they're trying to strategize and figure out how they're gonna make us slaves again. Not give us rights to vote, not give us extra freedom, not give us extra power, not allow us to be able to get money. They are trying to figure out how they are going to hold us back from growth. That's
Right.
it.
So when
That
did we jump Democrat? Because everything that we claim to enjoy today, a lot of it was provided. In Black America, we are stuck on this idea about our right to vote. We've been talking about it, about how our ancestors fought for our right to vote and all of this. And yet and still, every Democrat president that we've seen since 1870 and again since 19 what 65, every last one of them No Democrat has ever extended the Voting Rights Act for people of color, or that didn't allow for the basis of this for discrimination on the basis of race.
They
Period.
didn't have time. Once they got into office, that was
This is
no
the
longer
perfect
the
time.
most
This is
important
the
part of
perfect
the
time. We're
agenda.
talking about the importance of democracy. This is
Mhm.
the perfect time to have this discussion. But you know what they want to talk about? They want to talk about race. They don't want to talk about inflation. They don't want to talk about our indefinite right to vote in America. They don't want to talk about that.
Inflation. I don't want to talk about that. There is no inflation right now. Okay, that's what they're saying. We
There's
are
no
not.
crash.
We're
There's
not
no
going towards the
inflation. There's none
recession.
of that.
They do not want to create any sort of panic or outrage like they did before. They're not looking for people to be out here stealing all of the tissue, toothpaste, meat, milk, important stuff. They don't have time for that. We're already in the struggle, right? They're
They don't
not
want to say that
sending the
part
stuff
either.
over to us the way we supposed to get it. We
Right.
beat everybody because we want to take sides with other people. So yeah, we already restricted. They not trying. We already only got 2 gallons of milk on the shelf and 1 gallon of baby milk. So they definitely
Okay.
not trying to have that conversation. Oh, it's a recession, and then every
Oh, they don't want to hear that. Oh my
Oh,
God.
not
You
at
got
all. Not at all. But we've had are we going on our third quarter of negative GDP? Or are we
yes,
going on the
the
fourth?
see,
house going
people will
down. The
start
house
pulling their
market
money.
going.
People will
Yes.
all run to the bank, start pulling their money out. People will start panicking. That
Yep.
would create such a panic, and it would cause more harm to the
Mhm.
government than it's worth, for real. Because then they're gonna have to figure out how they're gonna come up with all that federally insured money that they done spent.
Okay.
Then they done lost. They couldn't take it
Because
out.
your money is not in the bank.
They
It's
about
just federally protected. That's it. But you know what? But one thing that was interesting about this article is when she said this time when they come back to enslave people, it'll be people of all color, as long
oh,
as you're considered poor or broken. And even if I don't believe the rhetoric around that this is what they're planning, if it is what they're planning, I do believe that that would be an accurate statement. That race wouldn't be as big a factor as it was back then
mhm.
during slavery. I do believe that it would be more so focused on just the poor in
this this
hey.
is what got me. Wait, she said they would gladly own you. They're going to take your guns, your speech, and your God. Okay. Now you know we
Well,
always have
they're already taking the speech, so we're watching that go down real time.
right.
And
So
the Biden administration is touting about all these restrictive gun laws. Now the Supreme Court struck that down too. They made it even more difficult for you to put regulations on gun ownership.
Mhm. That tells you something because they're all what?
Mostly conservative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
mostly
the Supreme Court is mostly conservative.
mostly trying to keep their weapons.
Mhm.
So she also had some other claims that she had made when it comes to abortion and also education. So she was saying that ballot initiative Proposal 3 was going to amend Michigan State Constitution to create a right to reproductive freedom. So it's going to change the right to make and effectuate decisions about all matters relating to pregnancy. But she basically went on there and told them that it's an open-ended term. It's any healthcare professional will be able to perform an abortion. And it'll be anybody. It'll be a school nurse at the school building performing abortions
Yeah,
on students.
But
look at that.
Assistant
but hold
students
on.
taking an abortion.
But hold on. Did y'all see how the language was written? She didn't say any healthcare profession. The language actually says a healthcare professional. A school nurse does fall into the criteria of a healthcare professional.
Yes, it
It's true.
does.
It's true. But they said that nurses aren't allowed to perform abortions in Michigan at all.
Right.
And they said that
But,
in
but when
Michigan,
you
they're
change the
not allowed to
language,
discuss it.
but when you change the language in laws, you change other things go along with that.
Oh, that's true.
Mhm.
Oh, that's true.
So when she was right when I don't think she was saying that this was naturally the intent, but the possibility does exist because a school nurse is a healthcare professional.
Yes,
Right.
yes, he
Well,
is.
yeah,
And And you have to think about, you got many of them that are drafting bills talking about the freedom. I forgot what they call those bills, but it's basically giving children the age of 12 and up the ability to go to gender affirming care, get gender affirming care without their parents' consent, to seek an abortion without their parents' consent. So why would it be any different to say that a health school and a nurse at a school would not be able to perform that? Because if you think about it, above 12 is what, junior high and high school.
Mm-hmm.
Who is
Junior
to
high.
say? Who's to say that one of those nurses wouldn't be able to? They are considered, because that's what the language says. It says a healthcare professional.
They better not start no stuff at that school building because it's woo, woo, woo.
Right.
Right.
First
But
mama to find out.
if at the age of 12, if they're trying to draft bills where a child at the age of 12 can seek gender affirming care without their parents' consent, how else far can it go? If
I
you can choose to alter your physical being at the age of 12 without your parents' consent, what would stop anything else? Where is the limit?
it can go all the way left. It can go all the way left, but um, they better not do that. They,
Right. But it's
they,
the way, but see, that's the thing though. That's why I say people have to read it. You can listen to as many stories as you want. You can watch all the TikTok videos you want, but reading is fundamental. And the way a lot of these bills are being drafted is the wording of them that opens up the door for so much more. It's ridiculous.
it's
So
true.
yeah, the way
She
that's
didn't tell.
worded,
Listen, she didn't tell. So they said that it was conspiracies, but like she didn't tell no lies. Okay, she said that they wasn't teaching the true history about life in public schools either. She said the Democrats wasn't teaching the truth. She said
Mm-hmm.
they were
they
teaching
have been.
indoctrination centers, and that
Mm-hmm.
they didn't want people to know that white Republicans freed the slave and that they were the,
Okay.
they created that. So they created the Southern strategy. That
Mm-hmm.
was a Republican Party thing that was created in order to be able to increase the electoral votes and gear people towards gathering support about racism towards African Americans, and all of the Southerners adopted it. Excuse me, and doing they started to get it started to pick up traction, and then that's what caused the northerners to be upset, and the Democrats got upset about that. But that's what ultimately helped to be able to create those freedom laws that eventually resulted in us being free.
Right. And
Oh,
but
okay.
but
Good job.
that's what the three-fifths clause was. It wasn't that each individual one of us was considered three-fifths of a human, is that they allowed slave owners to count three-fifths of their slaves into the population numbers, but you still were not considered a citizen. So you still weren't considered a piece of a human, not even three-fifths of a human. You were counted in numbers in order for them to get more electoral votes. That's all that was. They
Mm-hmm.
counted three-fifths of their slaves in population numbers only, but
Mm-hmm.
had nothing to do with citizenship.
Nothing at all. They just needed to be able to get that in so that they can get the popular vote, so they
Right.
continue to do what
It
it
just
was.
gave them more
Hold on.
power.
Scroll up, because people need to read that. They have rewritten history for years. No, no. I'm sorry. Down, down, down. I'm sorry.
Right there.
Yeah, they need to read that. Like, look at it.
Uh,
It's not like this is in black and white. This is
Hey,
something that people have been trying to tell you. But listen, read it. What'd you say, sis?
Democrats control curriculums.
hey,
That's
Nisi, what's funny about that is I had that conversation in elementary school. The first time I read in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue, I was
Yo,
like, hold on. I actually asked the teacher, so you mean to tell me he jumped off onto a piece of land,
and
saw
said
some
it was
people
his.
here, and said he discovered? I
Yo,
discovered a
yo,
strong word.
yo. Say
I
that.
mean,
I was one of them kids.
child,
Like, you can't tell
and
me
he
that,
jumped
cause
in.
hey,
I hate
them,
that, but I don't. I hate it because it made me never want to read anything about history in school. And I hated history after that because even as a child, I knew something went right when that story discovered is not the right word here. I was like, "How you discover?" No, you just found out, but you don't get credit for discovery just because you just found out today.
You was out
So
here stealing. That's what you was doing,
right,
stealing.
right, and not to mention he was a European reject. Christopher Columbus was a European reject.
They
Let's just
kicked
be
him off
honest
the land
about
and
that.
told him to get gone. Period.
Right,
They
right.
Came
kicked
He
him
was
off
right
a
and
over
told him
here
to get
reject.
gone.
and made
He
a
tried to
name
go
for
everywhere
himself.
and
That's what
anywhere
he
talking about
did.
he conquered something. So when he went back, he could say, "Hey, well, I got
Look
this
what I
land and this
did.
land. Boy, you ain't got nothing, ain't get nothing, ain't found nothing, because it was already found. It was people was
Right.
already here."
Let me
But
tell
I
you,
will
he
say
told
this.
that story for so long, it don't even matter at this point no more. He is the Christopher Columbus, okay? He didn't
Right.
know that for, at
I
this
have
point.
never, I knew something was wrong with history books the first time I read that sentence. I knew something was wrong with history books. But yeah, but they stay rewriting history. They're rewriting history in front of our face now. Now,
Yep.
y'all may not consider this history, but okay, look at the whole Caitlyn Bruce Jenner situation. So everyone knows that Bruce was an Olympic gold medalist, right? Everybody knows
Yes,
that.
it was.
Well, if you Google Bruce Olympic gold medalist, you know what's gonna pop up? The articles say Caitlyn Jenner won, Caitlyn Jenner gold medalist. I'm like, hold on. First of all,
It's
those are male sports. Second of all, Caitlyn Jenner didn't even exist when
that part.
Bruce won those. So the fact that all of the Google articles now have been replaced by Caitlyn Jenner, they're rewriting history in front of us
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the next generation of
You gonna
kids
have
is
the
not even
kids
going to know if
confused
Bruce
talking
Jenner
about, oh
existed.
yeah, Caitlyn Jenner won
They
that.
gonna just all they gonna know is Caitlyn.
Right. But if you
Oh,
Google Bruce
okay.
Jenner gold medalist, you're going to get the articles say Caitlyn. I'm like, how the articles say Caitlyn when the articles were written about Bruce?
All them years ago. All them
Right.
years ago.
They being changed now. Yeah.
You might have
Google
had
says
Caitlyn
Caitlyn won
inside
all them
you, but
medals.
all these
Google
years,
says Caitlyn won the medals in those men's sports.
ain't no
But
way.
you know what? That would be an interesting way to tackle the idea of transgender men
Nope.
or transgender
Nope.
women playing
Nope.
sports. If
Nope.
Caitlyn Jenner won gold medals in men's Olympics,
Nope.
then why can't I swim and win my medals?
Oh,
I'm
see,
just
you
saying.
starting stuff. Now
That's
you
what
know
I'm
what? You
saying
about to
about
go
this
back and
language.
snatch Caitlyn's medals now because
Hey,
a woman
right.
can't be in.
But hold on. But that's what I'm saying about this language. When you start rewriting stuff, you open up other doors. So for the history books now to say 20 years from now, the Google search engine is going to say Caitlyn Jenner won these awards in male sports as the only female competing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Google history search is going to say. That Caitlyn Jenner won these gold medals in a male sport as the only woman in that sport. On those grounds,
There's gonna be a whole bunch of only
I'm
women that's
just
gonna be
saying.
going over there
Mm-hmm.
trying to get some equality. I want to
Nope.
jump across the
I'm
room
just
too.
saying. I'm just saying. So while y'all want to be applauding Caitlyn Jenner, on the reverse side effect,
Mm-mm.
I'm just saying you opening yourself up. But yeah, the way that bill is written, it's possible. It's very possible. But just like with the affirmative action thing, I can see that going both ways. I can see it having positive effects. I can see it have some extremely negative effects. It all depends on how the language is written. And too many laws are written with room for interpretation, and that's a problem.
That's so that they can be utilized at random as
Nope.
necessary,
Right.
As needed.
As they see fit.
As
As
needed.
they see
so they
fit.
can fit it to whatever situation is desired at the
Nope.
time.
Right.
Yeah, no escaping it. All right, hold on. Let me see if I can jump this next.
But yeah, politicians been playing word games.
Democrats been playing word games.
Republicans do too, because I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I'm a fan of Republicans because I'm
Oh,
not.
not at all. But I'm just saying they're being very specific. That's what I was just saying. Based off of
Right.
that, they're being very specific.
Yeah.
So pretty much all we're saying is get to reading, get to finding out some information
Oh yeah,
yourself.
people need to read.
Oh yeah, please
Open up
read.
them books.
If you're not reading, then you're not growing.
Read to your kids and have your kids read to you.
That too. Please read to the kids.
Hold on, I don't know what this is, right?
I'm scrolling. I'm going back up. It's this video.
Oh.
This one is.
Oh.
Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can get it to play. Tap it real quick. Give it a little love tap. Mwah.
Okay. But yeah,
See
they
if it's gonna.
definitely playing a lot of the word games, and but they've always played word games. But I think the Democrats have played more word games than Republicans have. And I think they're really, really great at getting people in an emotional state to run down to the polls. And I think Roe was just one of those things that they did to enrage the audience to get them down to the polls.
Yep.
But yeah, the things that are really impacting us, they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about they want to have the emotional conversations.
Right.
Because it's worked for them.
The distracting
Right.
emotion. Because
But it's been
those
working for them,
really
though.
emotional conversations, like those ain't real ones. But whatever, we'll play how you want it. But them ain't real ones.
Okay, let's see if I can get this to. See if I can get this to work out.
But their business model did work, though.
Welcome back. Some Republicans were quick to condemn the violent attack against Pelosi, including Republican Whip Steve Scalise.
I reached out to Speaker Pelosi earlier today to express my thoughts and prayers and concerns about Paul, and hopefully Paul is going to get out of this okay. But, it's just alarming when you see any kind of violence, whether it's political violence or not. It's a sad state of affairs where we are today.
But ads targeting Nancy Pelosi are still on the air right now, and other Republicans have faced some criticism for how they've reacted to the attack, including Virginia's Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, they had a break-in last night in their house, and he was assaulted. There's no room for violence anywhere, but we're going to send her back to be with him in California. That's what we're going to go do.
New Hampshire, by the way, is always one of the top 5 battleground states to watch. As I like to say, New Hampshire's always going to New Hampshire on us. Has a marquee Senate race again this year. And joining me now is New Hampshire's Republican Governor Chris Sununu. He's also on the ballot. I think he hopes that New Hampshire doesn't New Hampshire on him right now. But Governor Sununu, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks, Chuck.
Look, I want to start. You had to cancel your outdoor inauguration at the start of 2021. It was the day after the January 6th attack. You talked about direct threats against your family. I think it was your COVID policies that seemed to fire up some people to do these threats. Look, you've had to deal with this. Where do you think this rise in political violence is coming from?
Well, look, you can go back to the beginning. This started back in the summer of 2020, right? When you saw cities burning, you saw not a whole lot of accountability there. The line for folks that were disagreeing with what might have been happening, not happy with what's happening in their communities, the line completely moved with very little accountability. And that set kind of a new standard in a very dangerous way. And then that carries over into the politics and what happened in 2020, the insanity of what we saw on January 6th. What has happened to Steve Scalise, that was years before 2020. The threats on Justice Kavanaugh. No, Gabby Giffords. I mean, there doesn't seem to be an end to this. It's on both sides of the aisle. But look, people have to just take the heat down here. I mean, this is America. This is one of the most amazing places on the planet Earth. We should all wake up and be grateful. We can disagree and have heated arguments, of course. But when you cross that line into violence, it does your cause no good. It does the system no good. And it just brings everything to a more fragile state.
Do you not see any connection to former President Donald Trump?
So they ain't defund the police no more.
Right.
Oh, there's connection to everybody in all of this. No, absolutely. Look, it's not just about former President Trump. It's about, people are getting upset about inflation. They're getting upset with, issues that happen on what we would consider a very minor level. But to them, it's passionate. It's the end. It's just the end of days for them. And they're going to go to that nth degree. And it's just absolutely insane. It is. And again, the answer isn't just, well, we're just going to have more security. Of course, you're going to have to do that at some level. But the answer as a society, as a community, it's not a government solution. It's a cultural solution here in America. And we all 300 million of us have to take a very deep responsibility towards that.
Well, I want to drill down a little bit here because Governor Youngkin, it was sort of surprising how sort of laissez-faire he was about talking about the attack and how he quickly sort of went to politics here. Are you at all concerned we're numb to this escalating, pugilistic way of conducting our politics?
Absolutely, we're becoming numb to it, and that's even more scary than the actual acts sometimes, because it's becoming the norm. The line is moving. Well, I'm not taking it so far as to threaten kidnapping the governor of Michigan, which we saw, which was very scary as a governor, right? I'm not taking it to that level, so it's okay, and that's just a crazy set of reasoning, right? If you have a disagreement, get involved in your local community, get involved, run for office, have the debates, whatever it might be. Keep it civil, of course. It can be heated, it can be passionate, but you got to keep it civil, because it's the only way that as a society we're going to move forward.
Well, one of the things that in the FBI and DHS warning of why these threats appear to be a little higher right now than they
Just wait a minute.
have before is because of this rise of election denialism. And I bring it up because Don Bolduc, the Republican nominee for Senate, has been an election denialist. Here's what you said about him during the primary season.
I don't take him as a serious candidate. I don't think most people do. Kind of a conspiracy theorist type candidate.
And I say that because he did a debate this week where he talked about an election conspiracy. Let me play it for you, Governor.
We need to make sure that school buses loaded with people at the polls don't come in and vote.
Just to be clear, you're claiming that buses full of voters who are not permitted to vote here, you're claiming that happens in New Hampshire?
I am claiming that is what Granite Staters tell me. And I am saying we need to respond to that.
Do you think you need to verify that information before you say?
I think we need to verify it. That's what I just said. Can you listen to me here for a second? I am saying that this is what Granite Staters are telling me. And I think.
What is he talking about? He should just.
It's the whole, but it's propagandizing politics. That's all it is.
Right.
That's what this whole conversation is about. It's the propaganda politics. Because what I don't like about what Sununu said was he wanted to talk about how crazy the summer of protests were in 2020. Of course, that was us protesting racial disparities and the death of George Floyd. But you failed to mention about all the protests that y'all have had.
Exactly. They didn't have recently. Well, that day.
The whole what was the one where what was that in Charlottesville where that you will not replace us and all that? Y'all have done this, all the KKK rallies throughout history. So let's not sit up here and act like the one that you can associate to us in modern day time is akin to anything that you all have ever done in a protest of anything. Because I specifically remember in 2020 when what was that, Michigan, when they got mad because when the barbershops got closed and men couldn't go get haircuts, they showed up at the governor's house yielding weapons. Oh, so let's sit up here and act like our protest was any more dangerous than any protest that you all had put on. So I didn't like the idea that he brought that up. And it's the whole idea about everything that they say, the way that they speak, the words that come out of their mouth. It's intended to be divisive. And at what point in time, everyone keeps saying we got to come together. We got to bring the country back together. But nobody actually talks in togetherness.
But wait, no, did you notice that he definitely talked in togetherness after he brought out the fact that we are the ones that are bringing the division.
Okay.
He brought it all out, brought it all around and said, they create these riots, they're doing all of these things. But if we need to just go out and have a civil conversation with them, if we could just act like we got some sense when we talk to them, then maybe they'll act right too.
We do, and they don't.
That part.
We've been acting right for 400 some years.
Never was a problem to begin with.
I was about to say, never had a problem in the first place.
Never was a problem to begin with. Okay.
And then the other thing I don't like, so you got in 2020, you got the Democrats Biden ran his whole campaign on racial disparities in America, did he not? Because there was a whole outcry for defunding the police. Of course, later, America is not a racist country, blah, blah, blah. But shortly after, we have the Asian American and Pacific Islander hate crime bill, but America's not racist. And then you turn around now, after the Pelosi incident, now we're back to all this aggression in America. We're back to all this divisiveness. We're back to racism. We're back to white supremacy. White supremacy doesn't exist in a state that doesn't have racism.
Right.
That's what white supremacy is. So we're back to the white supremacy conversation now, because now you need votes. Now you want to get the black community in an uproar again and have them run down to vote for Democrats. The problem is, what have Democrats ever actually done to better the community? But they're real good at making you feel like they're going to protect you. They're real good at making you feel like they're going to do something that's going to benefit specifically you.
And they
don't.
Yet.
Everything gets swept under the rug. It all gets swept under the rug. Obama did the same thing. Most Democrats have done that. Whatever they run their campaign on, the minute they get elected, that is no longer their top priority. And then as soon as election season riles back up again, now we're back to having the emotional conversation. Now, since Pelosi's husband got his head cracked, which I'm beginning to question this whole.
Thought it was.
Did they watch him get beat up? Did they watch him get beat up?
Set up that went too far.
Oh, hold on. Did y'all hear that there was supposedly a third person in the house? Now check this out. They've come back and said that that's a lie and blah, blah, blah. But the police, when they gave a statement, an officer actually said when they knocked on the door, another individual that wasn't Pelosi and wasn't, what's his name, DePappy, it wasn't either one of them. So if Pelosi was able to call the police, because then they said they did a wellness check. I'm like, who does a wellness check? If I call the police and say there's an intruder in my home, it's not a wellness check.
But they said the wellness check was called earlier that day.
By who? Because according to them, they were responding to him calling the police and speaking in code. So from the time he called the police, however long he had this conversation where he was speaking in code, to the time they actually showed up, you mean to tell me these men were yielding hammers, and I still haven't figured out if it was one hammer and they were going back and forth with it, or if it was actually both men had a hammer.
He was waiting. They was like, 1, 2, 3, go.
Right. That's so, and then that's another thing. So you talk about, just like he brought the whole idea about the summer protest. The summer protest was happening when we were getting shot in the back for running away. So now you have a situation where an officer shows up on the scene where officer says both men had a hammer. I don't know if they both had a hammer at the same time or there was an exchange of the hammer, but the officer did say that both men held a hammer. So you watch the bludgeoning go on. And nobody got shot. I'm confused.
Yo,
like, hold on,
he watched him hit him with the hammer. He watched him hit him with a hammer.
He said there was no crime committed if they didn't see the assault.
Hold on, he had injuries to his hand and his arm or something like that too. So this assault was going on in front of the police. And if there was only one hammer involved, then it sounds like when they arrived, it sounds like Pelosi had the hammer in his hand. The Pappy got it away from him and then hit him in the head. But if that's the case, when the police arrived, then the person with the weapon is the presumed suspect, right?
Why don't you freeze? Put your hands up.
I'm just saying that's just what
I'm still alive right now.
I assume that the person with the weapon was the presumed suspect. But I don't know how all that went down. But it not to I'm not the one for the conspiracy theories, but it's just right on time to go right back into this whole idea about what Trump contributed to the environment that we live in today. So every ounce of racism that we know in America is Trump's fault.
No, it's just that he's coming back around for 2024, and he announced it. So everything, the hammer's got to come back out. That's all.
Right.
We got to make sure that don't nobody vote for Trump.
And another thing, an 82-year-old man was able to get a hammer away from a 40-something-year-old. I'm just confused. I'm a little confused. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible.
No,
I'm saying it's very convenient.
And then the fact that y'all watched him get hit.
Right. Bludgeoned.
Elder abused. Because
I'm just trying to figure out how long they were talking back and forth, holding hammers up in the air, and waited till the cops bust through the door.
And they was talking
swinging at each other.
Boy, I'm gonna bust your head to the white meat, just back and forth. Literally.
Yeah, buddy.
That's why I muted myself now.
Yeah, hey, they at these politics, they nice with it though. And it's crazy because it's not to say that any one of these stories couldn't have actually happened or couldn't be true, but your track record brings into question a lot of things. Their track record is not too trustworthy. And I think had all this happened prior to social media and big data, I think we would be just as gullible as a lot of us were 10, 15, 20 years ago. In all honesty, voting straight Democrat in the Black community has been a generational curse. Because you can ask any 40-year-old Black American that has voted straight Democrat all their lives why they vote Democrat, and I guarantee you're not going to get a good answer out of 5% of them. It's basically because that's what their parents told them that they were. They voted Democrat because they grew up in a Black household, but none of them can say what they have done for us. And we're right back in 2022 in the midterms. None of y'all can say what Biden has done for you, but we're in a place right now where we're deciding on whether or not we're going to vote Democrat, Republican. You got a lot of the Democratic senators and everybody out that's basically acting like they're coming to save the day. And their policies are the policies that most of us have an issue with.
Mm-hmm.
We have an issue with you teaching the pleasure-based sex at 12 years old. We have an issue with that.
Yeah, we do.
Agendas.
Mm-mm. We shouldn't be teaching that kind of stuff at the school, period. Can we teach hygiene? Teach these little kids how to wash their arms.
How about you teach people how to live off the land? How about you teach people how to grow a garden?
Life skills.
Yeah, they ain't doing none of that.
How about you teach some real life skills?
Mm-mm. Oh, so I'm gonna tell you. Let me take that back. I'm not gonna say that they're not doing that.
My body, not yours.
At the school where my kids go to, they do actually teach that kind of stuff, right? But they're not teaching about the masses, and most of us as adults ain't learned that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that they need to be investing money into so that they can help people that's out there on the land to be able to survive and sustain themselves. But they're not trying to teach that kind of stuff because then you wouldn't need them, and the whole goal and focus is for you to need them, depend on them for everything.
Hey, that's a Democratic agenda. They want you to depend on them for everything. And think about it. If it wasn't for social media, how different do you think 2020 would have looked had it not been for social media? If we didn't have the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Twitters, and everybody was just whatever you saw on CNN was the word of the day. How different do you think 2020 would look?
Nobody would have came outside. Everybody would have been hysterical, thought it was the Black Plague because everybody was listening to the news. And yeah, you think tissue got hoarded. Stores would have been empty. Do you
But
hear
you know
me?
what they wasn't hoarding? They wasn't hoarding no soap. So all the hand sanitizer was gone, but the soap was plentiful. So you look nasty nuggets was out here sanitizing yourselves to death, but wasn't nobody washing their
They did a
hands.
quick wash.
Took a whole bath with some hand sanitizer.
You can't hand sanitize your whole body now.
I promise you, every time I went to the store, the soap was plentiful. You couldn't find hand sanitizer nowhere. So y'all just spraying y'all house with Lysol and hand sanitizer.
Oh, I'm so dumb.
But you still got spaghetti sauce in the microwave from 1997.
Throw the microwave away.
She said,
"That's how I feel about the Democrats. Just throw the Democrats away." That's how I feel about the Democrats. Just throw them away.
Let's get a new one.
Oh my God.
But yeah, a lot of their agendas, most people just can't get behind. And I can't figure out one thing that Biden has done that actually benefits me, my family, my life, my struggle, my situation, anything. And in all honesty, I'm going through my list of presidents and I'm trying to figure out who to compare him to. And he's almost on my list of like he's definitely in the top 5 worst presidents, like word up top 5.
Dang.
Oh,
like seriously, Biden in my top 5 worst presidents of all time.
If he'd have forgave all student loans, he'd have been top.
We're not even going to talk about that.
But because he in the struggle and he can't even pass the law for the student loans, make him, Yeah.
But I think everybody who doesn't want the student loan forgiveness, I think their reason is justified. I shouldn't have to pay for your decisions in life. And that's with any decision you make. I don't think abortion should be federally funded. If you want to get one, I don't give a hairy rat's ass if you go do a baby deletion. I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
How do you know rats?
However, I don't want to pay for your one night stand that led to a pregnancy, and you just decided that you didn't want to be parentally responsible. I don't think that I should have to pay for it. I don't think it should be I don't think it should be federally funded at all.
That's why they got
all. You make you wasn't screaming my name last night. Why I got to pay for that?
I don't think that it should be federally funded. I think that you should pay your fare.
But a lot of people do.
Like you bought them Nikes to put on.
Nancy Pelosi made a comment about the United States funding abortions worldwide.
But nobody's listening.
Excuse me. I don't even want to fund my next door neighbor's baby deletion. No, thank you. That was your one night stand. That was your fling. Do you? But I shouldn't have to pay for it. And I feel the same way about student loans. You went out and got that education. Why does someone else have to pay for it? Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of people were duped into the American dream. I do believe that they sold everybody on that bullshit degree. However, I don't think that should be everybody else's fault, because it's a slap in the face to every family who couldn't afford to send their kids to school, or the people who just decided not to go. It's a slap in the face to them that I got to pay for y'all's education now because you can't find a job in your field. That's not my fault. That you got a bachelor's degree and you working at Walmart. No.
But it be like that. It really do be like that.
Dang.
But there's a lot there's some math teachers that left from teaching math to working at Walmart.
Not my fault.
Because no Walmart working around here. However,
I feel for y'all, but that's not my fault.
Oh no. See, I'm in a whole different class. It don't even matter. I told you already. My student loan gonna get forgiven no matter what, regardless. I own my nonprofit organization, baby. Since
I hear you on that. I
got a couple years left, and I'm writing off the whole ticket. Do you hear me? What?
I'm just saying.
Why?
Before I can agree to student loan forgiveness, I'll agree to child support forgiveness. I'll agree to that.
So you know what? I'm gonna tell you. Well, I'm one of those all one-off moms, because I definitely did forgive my my kid's dad's child support. I wrote his child support off and took him off child support, so they didn't take his license, and so he didn't end up going to jail over no dumb stuff. I mean, seriously, like what $25 a month? Like, I mean, come on now, like really, y'all gonna take this man to jail for $25? That's dumb.
Right.
I mean, I feel like it's time. Time is what kids need. It's the time that's better well spent. They learn a whole bunch of stuff. Anybody can get money, but that time is what they need in order to be able to thrive for real. So yeah, I ain't never been big on the child support. Yeah, I ain't never even got no child support for real. And I got 7 little people. And
that's what's up. Yeah, I'm with the child support forgiveness, but they don't want to talk about that. So you want to take away. So you got Tennessee, who's criminalizing homelessness after C-19. These are evictions as a result of C-19. You criminalize homelessness, but you're taking care of Section 8 woman who is an able-bodied individual. That's a Democratic agenda. You want to give something to an able-bodied individual just to say we're taking care of women. And I'm sorry, I cannot support that. Everybody should contribute.
Everybody should contribute.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Yeah. Look at that. You see me not screaming. Look at that.
Okay. So yeah, that's the U.S. Census Bureau has started tracking evictions since C-19 to see, has there been, I guess, changes or whatever. Now, the crazy thing about this is the number that's up there might seem like a high number, but it's not close to the actual number of evictions since C-19. And the reason why is because they're only tracking, I think what they said, 6 states and 30 something cities. I think it's 31, 32 cities, something like that. And 6 states, and the states that they're tracking are not, they're not those type of states. It's not a Texas, it's not a California, it's not a New York. Now they got some cities in New York and in Texas, but they're not tracking the actual state. So if you have been, if this whole idea about C-19 happened, y'all shut down the economy, biggest mistake ever. Because you should have never shut it down, because most of us already had it by the time you made that. It was already here by the time you made that decision. So shutting down the economy is why a lot of these people got evicted. So you evict these people in a lot of these places. You got places like Tennessee that basically penalize or criminalize homelessness or vagrancy, again, no different from slavery or right after slavery. You basically penalize or criminalize vagrancy and homelessness. But yet and still, we want to take care of all the women. We want to make sure that the women feel safe.
Yeah.
So I'm all for women being safe. As a woman, I want to be safe too. But where do you draw the line at an able-bodied individual not taking care of themselves? Because I don't like my tax dollars going towards that either. I don't think my tax dollars should fund your ill decisions. My tax dollars should not be going for a project woman who doesn't want to better herself, who basically took a job working 15 hours a week just so she wouldn't lose out on state benefits. So you intentionally reduce your hours at work. You intentionally refuse to work full time just so you could be subsidized by my tax dollars. I'm not with that.
Yes. But see, the thing about that is, though, they think that is winning. So until we set a different standard and teach people that that's not the mindset that you should have, that's not the type of lifestyle that you should want for yourself, that you should want to create generational wealth, that you should want to be able to do better for yourself, that you should want to be able to pay your own bills, pay 15
rent.
But how do you do that? How do you do that voting for a Democrat whose agenda is to make you dependent upon them? Because everything about their agenda makes you dependent upon them.
But that's a whole nother change to a mindset, though. Like we've already discussed that people go out and they vote for whoever based on what they had on that day, or what the name sounded like, or whether or not it sounded like they might have been somebody that would help them, or if they seen a commercial, who had the worst commercial and who got bashed the worst, because that's usually what we remember. We never remember the good stuff that happened, but we always remember the bad. So who had the worst commercial that was out here? That talked about them doing the worst thing possible to humans. And that'll be the one that they'll remember. That's the name.
It's another thing I don't like. I don't like the political campaigns where they're bashing all of the candidates. Why can't you sit up here and talk about what you want to do to better the community, as opposed to bashing everybody else? To me, the smear campaigns just means you didn't have nothing else to bring to the table.
That's pretty much what it is, though.
And they do it all the time. I mean, that's pretty much all it is. When we talked about Tierra Mack, the twerking senator, when you got up here in defense of everyone saying, I can't believe that the senator is up here twerking on a handstand, which I couldn't believe that shit either. But when she got up on social media to defend herself, her method to defend herself was basically to say, oh, it's mighty funny how y'all didn't have anything to say about the bills I'm passing, but you want to talk about my twerking video. Yeah, I twerk, blah, blah, blah. Y'all mad about this. What did she call it? Voluptuousness or something she called it. And I said, what's crazy about that is, if that was your argument, for you to say that y'all didn't care, y'all didn't talk about me when I was passing all these bills, when you jumped on social media to defend it, why didn't you get up here to talk about these bills? So why is it we have to get out and either bash somebody else, or basically we're not talking about what we plan on doing that's going to better the community, what we plan on doing that's going to help you, why you should vote for me as opposed to why you shouldn't vote for somebody else. And that's how I feel about that's how I feel about this whole J6 committee. I feel like don't get me wrong, I see what they're saying. And if Trump is guilty of what they say he's guilty of, where's the arrest? That's all I'm saying. Where's the arrest?
Exactly. Say that.
But the way they're going about it, it's all like it's political theater. It's like you're only doing it to defame his name. You're only doing it to make it more difficult for him to be on the ballot in 2024. You're only doing it to put a sour taste in everybody's mouth about Trump. So if that's why you're doing it, then why is it that you can't run a campaign on your successes or what you plan on doing, as opposed to just bashing somebody else? What do you bring to the table, as opposed to why I shouldn't vote for this person?
Exactly.
If that list is much shorter than the negativity, then they're gonna go with the negativity every time. Plus, everybody likes drama. They want to hear that. They want to hear the negative.
No, I don't. I want you to let us know how you going to end the racism, in the injustice, in you just tell me how you gonna do all this. I don't care.
They trying to hear that clap.
Why?
You know what you gonna do? He said something about you. He said you wasn't good. He slapped your husband. Now what are you gonna do?
Right, like who? I don't
care. Roxy, see if you could try to bring the affirmative action one up, though. See if we can get that one to play, because that's a great segue to that, Nisi. I really do think that in some small way, that could be a stepping stone in that direction, but you got to be careful with how it's written. And I don't think it's going to be written in a way that's going to eliminate other forms of racial discrimination.
It won't.
It's not.
I don't think so. But I see the potential that exists, but it's not going to be written in a way that overrides it. It's going to be written in a way that basically allows a company to do whatever the hell they want to do.
And then everybody went to that diversity, inclusion, and inclusive. Right. Everybody went to that training. Now, just to hell with it after a while. Just to hell with it all. Just, okay, yeah, we got the training. We understand what you're saying.
But if you're going to remove race from applications, remove names, addresses, zip codes, college, where they went to college at, church affiliation, remove all of that from any application. And the only thing on here, if it's for me to rent or buy a house, all you see is my credit history. If it's for me to get a job, all you see is my credentials. That's it. There is a way to get to that point, but just removing race is not going to solve that problem. Because if I'm an employer and I got two applications in front of my face, one says Boone Quisha, the other one says Jared. I'm just saying. So unless you remove the other identifying information, removing race is a moot point.
In real life. Look at that.
Oh, that one still don't want to play.
It don't.
Wait a minute. Just hold tight right there.
The video is.
It might play. It might play this time.
Yeah, just wait. There you go. There you go. It should play.
I'm scared to push play now, y'all. Dang.
Oh, let's go. Here it go.
It don't want to do right. It does not want to do right.
This still ain't gonna act right. Dang. Get you then. Got me up here struggle streaming. I said I wasn't struggle streaming today.
I'll take it. I'll take it and post it in the in the description, because I think people need to look at it, because the Supreme Court is going to be determining whether or not they remove affirmative action from college admissions. So it's going to be interesting, but it's interesting to read the justices' commentary on it and where they stand right now. And one of the things that is troubling is they reverted back to what was written about the overturning of Roe, when Justice Alito, they basically, of course, they said it was egregiously wrong, but they went back to what they called, when they talk about inference to the Constitution, they went back to what could be inferred by the founding fathers when the Constitution was written. And if you think about what could be inferred when the Constitution was written, so you talking about a 1776 era type environment that could have it could be interesting. And with this Supreme Court being so conservative with the way they've ruled on a lot of things, I could see a lot of changes coming down the pipelines, but I'm afraid of how this affirmative action might be written when it comes down. I'm with it, done right. I just don't think it's going to be written where it actually doesn't allow for the discrimination based on race. I think it's going to open the door for more discrimination based on how it's written.
I do
Scroll
too.
down some more.
They're already talking about looking at the unique
I wanted
personal
you to
character.
look at, remember I wanted you to look at, what did you say? What did we say? Was it Thomas?
Clarence Thomas?
Yes, look, did you read his? I can't see. Oh, wait a minute, you're moving too fast. I can't see.
Okay. And you know what? He needs to be the last one talking about that because you wouldn't have the wife you have today, sir.
Right.
If we went back to inference.
Well, hold on. Look at what come on.
Yeah, because all the justices are separated. Yeah. It's like a couple of them might be, there goes Clarence.
Okay, right. I think it's like the second.
Where it said, I've heard the words diversity quite a few times and I don't have a clue what it means.
No, that sounds slow. Before that, somebody sounds very slow when they say it, like really. And I know you actually went to diversity inclusive training too. Ain't that something? Like I know everybody went to the training. It was like 2019, 2020. It was like going rampant. Like that was the only training like everybody had. So with that being said, you sound like a freaking idiot for saying that. But nonetheless, yeah, right. So nonetheless, I think it's probably the second one. And I can't scroll. Can we?
Hold on. So go back up just a tad to the top of that paragraph that's up there. Yeah, so Clarence Thomas wrote, so in the Grutter case, Clarence Thomas wrote the Constitution adheres classifications based on race, not only because those classifications can harm favored races or are based on illegitimate motives, but also because every time the government places citizens into racial registers and makes race relevant to the provision of burdens or benefits, it demeans us all. Now, in some way, form, or fashion, he has a point.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say. The point is,
live in a race-free environment if everything is based on race. If race is on every application you submit, how do you claim to live in a race-free environment? Everything is separated by race and class.
Exactly. Then I'm getting benefits as an agency if I'm inviting another race, if I'm hiring another race, if I, you know what I'm saying? I'm getting benefits.
So
with that being
said, away with that, would it also do away with the idea of minorities, period?
Mm-hmm. It should.
Because the problem
I have with the whole, just equally poor at that point. Is everybody equally poor?
I don't know.
The problem I have with minority
and majority, they are the minorities.
But the problem I always have with minority and the way it's written in law and the way they use minorities to give out loans at banks and all that type of stuff is that women are minorities. So white women are considered minorities. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to banks giving loans to minorities and not specifically blacks, then that means when they give 70% of their loans to white women, then they can say that they've given a majority of their loans to minorities, even though the black community has not benefited from those bank loans. So I'm with them removing that because they benefit from that way more than we do.
That's because, what did he say? They're the favored.
Right.
The favored.
But if it's done right, I can see the benefits of removing the affirmative action, but it has to be done right. And I don't trust that. I don't trust that it will be, especially not with Clarence on the bench.
And I don't see an essay being the way. I just don't see that.
Oh no, the essay. If they're going to do an essay type thing,
the essay was an addition, you guys.
No. I can see the essay, but it can't be an essay on necessarily your culture, or when they talked about a kid that transferred from Africa. That's going to be a clear indication or way for you to use that for racial bias. Now, if you say everyone has to write a paper on climate change, everyone write a paper on climate change, then you can remove the racial bias out of that conversation.
Not necessarily. We talk differently. We have different dialects.
But hold on.
We use different
dialogue. Different dialogue. Hold on. Different dialogue has nothing to do with a college admission. When you fill out an application, there is a certain format on that application. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you.
We're talking about an essay. You can.
I get that. I get what you're saying. Hold on. I get that.
Experience.
I get that. I've written essays too, and when I write differently than I talk. When I'm talking amongst my friends, I might not talk in commas and full sentences, but when I write with correct what is it, annotation and all that stuff. I put my commas where they belong, my quotations where they belong. I indent where I need to indent. I properly space. I do all of that when I write. So, but that goes back to us not wanting to be better. You can't use culture as an excuse not to improve.
About that. I'm not talking about periods and commas. What I'm talking about is if I gave somebody an essay and said, what was the best vacation that I ever took?
See, that's why I said you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. But climate change isn't one of those things that differentiates cultures.
It could, depending on because I could have been exposed to different climates.
Yeah,
I've been overseas.
Africa versus America, my is totally different.
You know what I mean? Like there's experiences that
hold on, but if you choose
have that other people won't have had the opportunity.
I can somewhat see that. I can somewhat see that.
Yeah,
but there still has to be a requirement for entry. There has to be a requirement for entry, but you can't simply remove race.
Yeah.
So that's not going to cut it. There has to be a requirement for entry.
It's true.
Yeah.
They just gonna start.
I'm sorry. At some point in time, if we're talking about college admission, at some point in time, you've got to stand above. If you're trying to get into Harvard, you've got to stand above everybody else trying to get into Harvard. So I'm sorry. I get what you're saying, but at some point in time, we've got to also want to do better. You can come from a different background and still improve your environment. You can still want to be well-read. You can still want to be educated. You can still not just talk in Ebonics.
I'm not saying that the story ain't well-read. There's a difference between just because it's well-written and informative and insightful don't mean that they want it to get out there to the public. Don't mean that they're going to accept you who you are.
True.
Don't mean that they're going to let you into their school building because they reading this article and they know that you are a person of a specific color and they are trying to file 13 all of those. So just like with a job, you know what I mean? I come in 5 different applications. I'm going to run through them real quick. So if I go in here and I see this one say, oh, yeah, she said she was on Crenshaw. Oh, throw that in the trash. Boom.
Well, then if that's the case, then throw it all out the window and everybody just goes for free and it's all on taxpayer dollars.
See, now
if there's not a barrier to entry, then that's the only other option.
They was trying to do that, make that. But then the school started complaining because a lot of for-profit schools don't have a way to be able to get paid then.
Well, hell, they've been inflating college admission prices for decades anyway, so who cares? Screw them. Their pockets been fat for a long time.
10 times fold.
They already mad because the NAACP said that not NAACP, why I can't think of what it's called. Now I can't think of what it's called, but the sports, where they said now the college athletes can make money off of their name, image, and likeness.
Oh, the colleges.
Yeah. So that's more money because now they're actually talking about paying those athletes, not just letting them have sponsorship deals, but now they're actually talking about actually having some form of a salary. Because if you think about what the coaches are making and what the schools benefit from having those sports teams,
they should have been doing that. My thing is, there's so many people that was going to college, that was basketball players or some type of sports players or some type of something that unfortunately had to quit because they can't keep up with, I get to go here for free, but what about my extra money? I have no extra money. If I wanted to buy something off of campus, I couldn't. I have no extra money unless somebody's sending it to me because I can't get a job because I'm always in what? Practice.
That's part of the American dream, though.
Right, but my shush. But
Hey, if you bought into it, that's
you know
part
what
of the
I'm saying?
American dream.
And a lot of them have results in what? Having records and things.
Hey, that's that American dream.
But a lot of them end up having records and things. So then now all of a sudden, now you kicked off the whole college thing because now you got a record because you were hungry or you wanted to steal or you know what I'm saying? Something so small because they're not getting paid for anything that they're really doing. And they're
All I know is any college athlete currently, y'all better be watching who y'all running around ejaculating into, because with them talking about this unborn child support and state abortion no longer being federally protected and college kids making money off of their name, y'all making money off your name, image, and likeness. That means if one of them college gals come up pregnant, sir, you're gonna be in for a hell of a child support agreement. I'm just saying.
Paying child
support on
a pregnancy that ain't even theirs.
Melanated, melanated, don't get caught up in the hype, homie. Don't get caught up.
Right, that's all I'm saying. Because can you imagine what a child support payment will look like now? And you sitting up here in college and a girl pregnant in a state where abortion is illegal, and now you got a Nike deal?
That baby got some Nikes.
You ain't gonna want them payments, sir.
Because it ain't gonna be cheap.
Not at all.
And on top of that, you gotta keep up that
way. And there ain't gonna be no retroactive reductions.
Yeah, I was about to say you gotta keep up your likeness because honey, it ain't gonna fluctuate with your income.
Right.
It ain't fluctuating with that income, bruh. So listen, just do it.
Right.
Like Nike told you.
Get out of college and get a good job, because if you don't, you still gonna have that gigantic
payment.
What
you need with a good job when you got a sponsorship deal?
That's what I'm saying. When you got a sponsorship deal, you should be making all the commercials. All the commercials.
Did you see what just happened to Ye?
That means you don't make bad statements.
Okay, then you better stop.
I believe Ye about to come up
tomorrow.
Ye about to come up. I'm just saying. I believe Ye about to come up for real.
I mean, I think
we gonna see. I believe Ye about to come up.
They said he going all the way down though because he was messing with a Kardashian girl.
Oh well. Hey, everybody who mess with them Kardashian girls get jacked up. I don't know why people keep falling for that. It's like all the men that leave there leave broken. I'm just saying.
All of them. Even
I don't know what kind of poison or witchcraft they got going on over there.
That's exactly what I was going to say, honey. It might just be in the names.
They can keep all of that action because the only one that he crazy too, but Ray about the only one still standing.
Who?
Ray J.
No,
Ray J. The other one with. She with somebody. Who the one she with?
You see him traumatized right now. He's still talking about Kris Jenner.
Exactly.
But that's because they didn't came out here with some old current stuff, and they had made a statement that I guess that he said that his daughter she's watching TV now, so she's old enough to hear, and basically made the statement that he was in on it. He did this. They were like, hold up, you ain't finna. He came out and said, you ain't finna have my daughter believing that this was my idea.
No, they said it was Chris's idea.
That's what I'm saying, but that's why he came back out. Not that he was traumatized by it.
To make sure what angle was right and everything.
But they wouldn't stop talking about it. It's not that he was traumatized by it. I believe that they brought something up and he came to defend himself. I guess he said, I didn't let y'all hold this secret long enough. Y'all want to talk, let's talk. And I don't blame him for that.
Let's put it all out there. That's exactly what he did. Put it all out there. Yes, he did. No, but one of them is still with somebody and they hanging on. As long as he keep putting babies in her and they having babies, they fine. They on what? Baby number 2, 3?
Oh, that's the little young
I don't know. I don't keep up with them.
Yeah.
Chloe. What's her name?
I thought it was Kris, but I don't know.
The mom.
Girl, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't follow.
I don't know.
I don't follow the K clan.
Haley.
Got that lip gloss,
Haley.
Right?
Haley.
Oh, that's the other one.
Girl, I think I'm lying though. I think I'm lying though.
I'm done.
Oh man.
So upset.
But yeah, it's one of them girls that go with somebody. Ain't married them yet, right?
Mm-mm.
They just having babies right now.
Yeah.
And then the other one got married to Travis
Yeah.
Gorka, ain't it?
Mm-mm.
Who cares about the Kardashians?
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah,
You
who cares?
Well, no. All I
How we
know,
connect all to the crazy Kanye. But go ahead, sis. My bad.
all I
No, I
know,
don't think he's as crazy as people think he is or want him to be. I really don't.
He might just be making just really bad decisions right now, right?
I
I
mean,
just don't think he's as crazy as people want him to be.
well, so there's all of these things that surrounded him, and the conversation about um, whether or not what he said was actually a racist event. So I'm gonna pull this article up real quick. Hopefully, hopefully, did I get it, y'all?
Okay.
Come over here, like, did I get it right?
Oh, this is some more Democratic propaganda.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. This is what happens right here. Okay, so um, this was about the alarming rise of anti-Semitism in the United States. It talked about that tweet that I can't yay made, because I was definitely getting ready to say the whole thing. And they were saying that it was a renewed focus that had been placed on the increasing number of hate crimes that were targeting J people. So,
Shut the front door.
We talked about it. It's something that they're saying has been on the rise lately. It's supposed to have been some sort of a new trend in the U.S. over the past few years. They're saying that there's been several incidences of hatred coming up against J people in the headlines constantly. Apparently, Ye's comment just shut it all the way down when he said that he was going to do DEFCON 3 on the J people. That shut down the whole scene. So
Now, you know what? My problem with that is, so you remember when we first covered this story, when we was like, where was the line, what he said? Because whether he would now, those personal experiences, I can't account for those. But if he's speaking about personal experiences, that's what that is. But everything else he said about them owning the music industry or the better share of it, that was not a lie. It literally was not a lie. So where was the lie? So now that more and more people are talking about the comments that he made being true, now they want to focus on the fact that he made the comment that he was going DEFCON 3 on the Jays. And I'm like, well, going DEFCON 3 on somebody is not anti-Semitic in and of itself.
right.
If that's all he said, like
And,
this is it. I mean, come on now. Now y'all really being sensitive.
right. And I've been made aware that DEFCON 3 just means preparing for. It's not
Right.
necessarily a threat. It's that you are just making preparations. So to make that comment is not racist, and it's not anti-Semitic in and of itself to go DEFCON 3.
Right.
So y'all just being sensitive, like little. And I mean, if this is all we talking about, it sounds like being sensitive, like a Karen right now, because this is all he said. Like,
I think it's bigger than that. I think it's bigger
it has
to
to
the
be.
point where first you talked about America's not racist, and now that the 2020 midterms are coming up, now you have this whole conversation that they keep throwing yay in our face, and all this anti-Semitism remarks. You got them talking about, oh, we've got white supremacy again. Now everyone's talking about the Jays, and white supremacy are talking about birth replacement and all of this nonsense. To me, it's like, so since they got Ye's face plastered on this, and he's the one that woke up the whole anti-Semitic rhetoric as of late, is that the new face of racism now? That's what I see. It's like they're painting him as the new face of racism.
He can't be the face of racism, and he's married to a wonderful lady.
Well, they're not married anymore, but I'm just saying. But it's the propaganda.
He's
It's
melanated.
supposed, right?
Kids. So
it's on one side when we're asking you to do something specifically for us. Oh, well, America's not racist. What are you talking about? We're not going to do that. We're not defunding the police. We're not going to give y'all this. We're not going to give y'all that because America's not racist. We don't need to fix anything because there's nothing wrong. But now all of a sudden, now that we're back in election season, now we're back on racism. But the racists now are not only white supremacists, but now they're yay, who's spewing up all of this anti-Semitism that's going on social media now. It's got a new uptick now because of him. And I didn't like the idea of him being painted as the new face of racism or racial slurs and comments. That's what I didn't like, because what he said was not racist. For you to say they own the music industry, like I said, the data shows that. Out of 50 top execs, they are 39. That's 78% of the top music execs are J's. That is the majority. That is not a lie. So if they had a problem with that comment, if the comment in itself was anti-Semitic, then that means the action should be anti-Semitic too. So give up your control and share. Give those labels back to us. How about that? How about that? Give me the label back, and that way everybody's all good. We can't make this comment, and you don't have to worry about it no more.
Money is not anti-Semitic in the J community. Yeah, that what?
Right. So if his comments were not false, I'm not understanding how he's being painted as the person that all of a sudden woke up anti-Semitic commentary now. So it's like now we're aching. So now he's aching to white supremacy. Are you serious?
Not at all.
But that's how they're writing the story.
Not sliding up in it every night.
I need y'all to remember how many times have crosses have been singed, scorched. How many times they done put up some crosses and decide to put those, burn them down? Come on, y'all got to pay attention. They steady doing it. They still running in churches. They still doing things to pay attention. Pay attention.
They flat out come out and say it.
So hold on. 90% of the Jays felt that anti-Semitism was a problem in the U.S. compared to 60% of the general public who felt the same. And they make up 2% of the population.
Yeah.
That's why he's getting dismissed of all those, though.
But what I'm saying is this stuff been going on. They said this started in 2020, so this ain't just happened. This has been getting worse progressively.
Yeah, but they're saying that he basically... Yeah, but they're kind of saying that he kind of woke everybody back up. And now that he's had these little tweets, everybody, how many people retweeted it, liked it, and all that other type of shit. We live in a world of social media likes and shares.
True. Like, share, subscribe. Hey.
So yeah. So the fact that Ye made the statement, and since then more people have come out in agreement with him. It's like, so now he's the rebirth of anti-Semitism. And I don't like that.
No, he's not. But it's funny again how you said 90% of them voted that was an issue.
Compared to 60% of the general population.
Oh, the rest
general public. And they make up to roughly 2% of the population. 2,
not 29, not 92, not 2.
So, but yeah, it's crazy. Right. So yeah, that was my problem with this story. It was the way that it was written. I was like, whoa, so y'all basically trying to say that Ye is responsible for waking up anti-Semites? Are you serious?
Y'all do anything for a Klondike bar.
The tragedy. Well, since we didn't talk about this one. I'm about to get ready to bring it on around to this, our last one.
Why are you looking like that, Rod?
Listening out for them kids. You know, our mom, that's the mom thing.
Yeah, she got her head tilted to the side, cocked to the side, here sides.
The mommy antennas.
Yeah, the antennas are sparked up. Sping, sping. There she go.
Real quick, real fast. Her little butt in trouble. All right, let's see if it's going. Oh, okay. How many people knew that Elon Musk was the one who owned Twitter? I know they've been talking about it a lot. I don't even, I don't think that people who get on social media care about who own the social media that they be on for real.
Yes, they do.
They need to, but I don't think that they care.
Yes, they do.
They've been doing it.
And they definitely care about Elon Musk on Twitter. Because that's another thing. Because now, so Elon Musk doesn't support the idea of lifetime bans. Now who got a lifetime ban on Twitter? Former President Trump, number 45, has a lifetime ban on Twitter.
He coming back.
He released that the same day, on top of firing the executive, the chief financial officer, and a couple other folks.
Yeah, he's coming back. They worried about the midterm elections, and then if Musk make good on his promise to restore the accounts of users who were previously banned, which would be Trump, and limiting the company's content restrictions. It's inevitable. Trump is coming back. So if that's the worst of y'all worries, y'all might as well go on ahead and chalk that one up, because he's coming back. He's gonna run. He's gonna apply to run again. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Okay. I don't want y'all to be out here shocked or in y'all feelings. Oh my God, I can't believe they let Trump come back. No, Trump was always coming back. Okay, don't be on here.
Trump never left.
No sad sob stories. I ain't trying to hear none of that.
Left.
That part. Well, it's supposed to also create some kind of upheaval for Twitter employees. But Musk said that he was taking on this responsibility of taking over Twitter so that he can bolster free speech on the platform and then unlock Twitter's extraordinary potential. So it's supposed to be for content moderation, and he said that he may consider permanent bans with potential impacts on civil discourse and the political landscape. Also talking about a desire to rid the platform of bots. Saying that the number of bots was the reason why he was going to abandon that deal. So he thinks that basically it's going to come back up. He thinks that Twitter is going to come back up, whatever it is that he has planned in order to be able to bring Twitter back up. He's planning on, because he put in $44 billion, a deal that was supposed to be an overpayment for Twitter. He had leveraged a whole bunch of other stuff in order to be able to make that deal with Twitter work. I guess he was also talking about cutting down 75% of the staff, which is why the employees were stressed out.
Okay.
And anxious, because he came in and fired the CEO, he fired the CFO, and he fired the policy head out the gate. So if you fire the top 3 people inside of the company out the gate, of course everybody else to trickle down is going to be nervous.
Right. But the Democrats are not fond of him buying Twitter, especially not right now. So since the purchase, and what was that, Friday when the deal was sealed? I think it was Friday. Since the purchase, so everyone knows Elon Musk stands. Everyone knows that he's not a fan of the lifetime bans. And I mean, he just isn't. And he's been known to say some pretty out there, make some pretty out there comments. So the first thing that happened after the whole Ye story, which was very interesting. So a lot of anti-Semitism, they claim, has shown back up. There was also an article that said since his takeover of Twitter, the N word has seen a 500% increase in usage on the platform. But check this out. According to Elon Musk, they said that that was basically a bunch of bots from R-Chan, or I think it's R-Chan. And they basically, it was like 300 accounts that basically tweeted and retweeted like 50,000 posts associated to the N word or anti-Semitic Semitic remarks. I forgot which one, or a combination of both, over just those couple of days. So it's been interesting. I know they're going to try to hold that over him, but according to him, he said those are all just bots, and he finna get rid of them all anyway. And it was like according to him, it was propaganda to make it look like he's already lifted all the restrictions. He's already met with the board, and they've already overturned, and they haven't. Right as of right now, there have been no changes made to content moderation on Twitter. They are discussing it, but nothing has changed. So for all those 500,000 or 50,000, however many they said it was, it's actually just a bunch of, according to him, a bunch of bots, or just a party or a group of people that are trying to make it seem like Elon Musk has basically opened up the reins. And I think one of the postings on there was somebody had actually made the comment that now I can actually, what did it say? Now I can show my dislike for the N word without recourse or some crazy nonsense like that. Thanks, Elon. So some shit like that. So yeah, they're gonna use it. They're gonna use it against him. But it's just crazy again how we're not racist when we're asking y'all to do stuff for us that we're being discriminated against. But when y'all want votes, all of a sudden America's racist again.
Listen, I think that stuff, all that stuff is just surface drama stuff, okay? Because at the end of the day, the main focus is he purchased this company that's over leveraged for 44 million. 44, was it 44 million? 44 billion.
I thought it was
44 billion. So he purchased this overpriced company thinking that he was going to get to use the money that came from his Tesla stocks and all of that in order to be, or was it the cryptocurrency? One of them.
Well, his
I
Tesla
remember
stocks
reading
are back
about
up,
it
though.
saying that he was utilizing those funds in order to be able to purchase it. So he over leveraged himself purchasing this big company. So now they're getting ready to try to figure out how to get that money back. So I think that that's going to be the biggest focus. It always is when it comes to business. As business owners, we look for ways to be able to get our money back. So I've heard, and I see it in this article where they were talking about people paying for tweets, making it.
I was wondering about that. So you know what that's going to do, because you know he's a Doge guy.
Yeah. So then
yeah, I was wondering when I heard, I was like,
In order for you to be able to make a post, you have to pay, and you have to pay using your cryptocurrency. He's
and
saying
you notice those stocks are headed. Doge is headed back up. Tesla's already up. Doge is headed back up. But yeah, his Tesla stocks are already back up ever since he made the purchase.
Why was I on mute? Dang on it. Yes, say that.
Yeah. So these are some of the things that he has done. He had a big shift in content moderation. They banned a bunch of accounts that were promoting abuse and spam and added labels for false or misleading information, and then banned the misgendering of transgender people. Then they also are planning on utilizing soft words or making the platform more palatable for women, members of the alphabet community, and people of color. So he's basically saying that he's going to make it more lenient, and it's going to be more unrestrained for people to utilize it without restrictions due to racism. It's going to basically be a free-for-all place where you can come and communicate openly and freely. That's the motto that he's promoting. So, unbanning Trump, yes. They gonna do it. Look,
But I'm not with the cancel culture. As much as I don't always, I'm not really a big fan of hearing Trump talk, but I do not support the, just because I don't like you doesn't mean I support cancel culture. And I don't support cancel culture. Because it's mighty funny how the only thing they want to really get him for is the whole idea around his rhetoric around a stolen election. But it's mighty funny that the Democrats didn't have no problem with the idea of a stolen election in 2016 when he beat Hillary. And it's mighty funny. It's mighty funny that Kamala Harris wrote a book called The Truths We Hold. And in her book, page 237 to be exact, she actually talked about how easy it is to manipulate those voting machines. So it's mighty funny that a Democrat, the current VP, actually wrote in her book that she proved that those machines could be altered. In 2016, the Democrats were talking about Trump stole the election from Hillary, but all of a sudden, Trump talking about it. Oh, that now we have an insurrection? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You don't get to have it both ways, because the current VP cannot have a book out that says they prove that those machines could be manipulated and turn around and say there's no way in the world the election was stolen. But y'all was hollering the same stolen election. Matter of fact, there's a documentary about the 2016 election. So basically, they made a whole documentary on Trump about how he so-called stole the election in 2016 from Hillary, right? And so everything that he did in 2020 when he said the election was stolen from him was everything that they claim was possible in 2016. So did he just use what you dug up to claim he stole it against you?
yes.
Did he? Because that's the same thing. There's a whole documentary about what Trump did, what happened during those elections, Russian collusion, all of this other stuff, outside influences, the machines being hooked up to the internet. There's an entire documentary out that came out prior to the 2020 election about that. But all of a sudden, when Trump said it, oh, that's not possible. This is secure elections. Y'all can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. And if we have to protect democracy so much, if the Democrats can run a campaign on the idea of protecting democracy, how are we not talking about the fact that the Voting Rights Act that is protected for people of color expires in the year 2000 and what, 31?
I don't know. Why don't we talk about how it should not expire? How about that? Let's go.
Right. If democracy is so important, why does our right to vote, or the protection of our right to vote, expire in 2031? Why does it have to keep being extended?
Yeah, why does it have to keep? That's
right,
one thing.
right.
What is
Because
going
we got
on
the
with
right
this
to vote twice. You got the right to vote in 1870 when they said all men have the right to vote. But because of laws put in place that prevented you from being able to vote or allow them to discriminate against you, there was an amendment added that enforced that they couldn't basically put those barriers in place. They couldn't give out the test, they couldn't impose the taxes, they couldn't do all that stuff, and they couldn't discriminate against you based on race or culture or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's always been extended by a Republican president. And why the hell is it being extended anyway? Why don't we have an indefinite right to vote in America? Why do they have to keep extending it? And why does the Democratic Party, who's currently talking about the importance of democracy, not talking about that? But they want to talk about Roe and an election that was not stolen. It's the emotional conversations they want to have. But they don't want to talk about inflation that's hitting everybody. They don't want to talk about these evictions that they got millions in the pipeline. They don't want to talk about these gas prices. They don't want to talk about food shortages. They don't want to talk about supply chain issues. They don't want to talk about nothing except for these emotional ass conversations. And in all honesty, and we'll go off into this on the next one, I'm wondering if they were cool with the overturning of Roe just so that they could have a political argument. Because they had plenty of opportunities. I ain't gonna say plenty. They had opportunities to codify Roe, and neither time they didn't.
I think a lot of people were all for Roe to turn it over because of this. I think it's just another one of these little fogs that we got to go through.
That was just what they did was they flipped a big decision, right?
That affected
the masses.
Mm-hmm.
And this time when they decide to flip another big law that affects the masses, we won't blink an eye so tough. We fighting it all over right now about Roe versus Wade. We gonna be fighting it all the way up to the polls because they still trying to find something to put in there to shut it down.
Right.
But
they got women to register to vote, though. They got women registered to vote. So NPR did a story on how they got droves of women now that are registering to vote after the Roe overturn. So if it wasn't for Roe, you women wouldn't care about voting. So the only thing that's worth your vote is the ability to delete a baby. That's the only thing worth you registering to vote. It's the emotional conversation that the Democrats want to keep having. And when they get in positions of power, they don't take the steps that got them here in the first place. The reason why we voted for them is never on their on the front plate. It's never the first thing they want to address. Obama did the same thing. He actually went down the Planned Parenthood on his campaign trail and told them the first thing he was going to do was find the, what was it called, the care for whatever that care act was.
Like, don't go in because we're gonna play that next time.
Okay, I ain't gonna go too deep, but that was the first thing he said. No different from Biden. You ran a whole campaign on defund the police. Just go and say nobody said anything about defund the police. I specifically heard that like every single day from a Democrat, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's back to the emotional conversations, the emotional vote. They get you in an uproar to get you running down to the polls. They put all these fear tactics in place to make you think that voting Republican is going to be the end all for everybody. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everybody should run out and vote Republican because that could be a little dangerous too. But what I am saying is you can't. The people that were upset about Trump for his so-called racist rhetoric or racist ways, how were we so upset about the surface racism, but not upset about the actual racism or disparities or redlining and the modern day black codes that are in place that put us in the position that we continue to be in? Why are we not upset about the crime bill that locked a lot of us up? So you mad because Trump said lock up the Central Park 5, but you ain't mad that Biden actually locked up the Central Park 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. And not to say that Biden locked him up, but Biden is actually, and corporal punishment, Kamala. You know how many bodies she's responsible for in the prison industrial complex, whom she didn't want to release?
For dumb stuff.
Right.
People of color.
So we voted for Top Cop because we were emotional.
No, they went out and voted for colors. That's all that is. Oh, she's brown.
Okay.
She's melanated.
She's gonna do it like Obama did.
Obama didn't do nothing.
They don't know that. He was brown.
Obama didn't do anything either, not specifically for us. And what pissed me off about him is when asked about it, you know what he said? Oh, I'm the president of everybody. I'm not just the president of the black community. But it's mighty funny you pass bills specifically for the LGBT community. You ain't the president of the just them either. But you pass bills specifically for them.
Listen, but Biden he used that to get in.
Biden passed bills specifically for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. But America's not a racist country, but we have current bills that are designed or directed at a specific race. How is that possible?
The same way that them specific races got their reparations and we didn't.
Say that. Got their reparations, honey.
Okay.
They got their money.
The rules don't apply to them, just to us, the ones that they created them for.
Right. But y'all gonna run down there in droves and y'all gonna vote Democrat because you so afraid. You're so afraid of the pandemic. You're afraid of the crime is up, white supremacy is up, but we don't live in a racist country. So I promise you I don't get that. I don't know how white supremacy is up. We don't live in a racist country. But Ye is the face of the rebirth of anti-Semitism now. So I'm just like, what the hell is next? And it's all just in time for the elections, no doubt.
All
just in time.
Because you got to keep your eye on the shenanigans.
Exactly.
To keep
Right. And the
unfocused
cover
on the real
stories.
issues at hand.
Right. And the cover story. Because
Like she said, they getting ready to take your God,
no.
your freedom, your guns,
But
and
check
y'all
this
over
out.
here worried about some.
Roxy, how many stories or postings have you seen about the Supreme Court making the decision to remove affirmative action?
I mean,
How
yeah.
many postings have you seen?
So
Probably.
I'm gonna tell you, I haven't seen. That was the first one that I had seen up until
But
election.
how many stories have you seen on Ye and his anti-Semitism?
Election time.
Hundreds
I
of
done
stories
seen
about
quite a
Ye.
few.
But y'all ain't talking about the
Not at
Supreme
all.
Court. That is not what's in wide circulation. The Supreme Court making the decision to remove affirmative action from school admission. Why
No.
is this not being talked about? But y'all want to talk about Ye, him being the face of the rebirth of anti-Semitism.
They know how to
How they
get
gonna
us.
get
They
that
know
law
how to get us with some other stuff. They said, listen, black people care about black people's stuff. So if we throw black people issues in front of their face or dumbass issues in front of their face, oh, they're gonna go for it. They base their life off of brands, fashion, bullshit. Like you said, party and bullshit. So with that being said, we're gonna bring up all this and do all this behind, because all they're gonna do is pay attention to this. They go to social media, they don't read, they don't pay attention to no politics. Because when we get into politics, black folks look like, I don't talk about that. Oh nah, but I could tell you what P Valley did and what Housewives of Atlanta did, and yeah, I could tell you
Not
more.
P Valley.
Yeah, so who we voting for now? Yeah, we can't even tell me who you voting for. Not who's on the ballot of, not the postcard ballot that you get. Who are you voting for? You can't tell me one person that's on there, nor who you voting for, but you can tell me everything on every TV show, every song, all the new songs, all the new shoes, all the new clothes, everything that they need us to focus on.
But I agree with that statement though. They're making it seem like he is the he's the new
Hitler
Hitler.
2020.
And I don't understand how is it when I saw this story, I was like, hold on. I haven't seen that one news article. I've been watching CNN, Fox, ABC for days. And this is the first time I'm hearing about the Supreme Court about to get rid of affirmative action. But Ye and Lizzo are plastered everywhere.
Every day.
Pelosi's husband getting his head bashed is everywhere.
The drama.
Getting rid of affirmative action ain't how.
Because they can't have that all out there like that. Then people gonna make an informed decision about something that's actually important.
Yeah, but if democracy is so important, how can the current administration, who happens to be Democrat, how can they not be talking about the indefinite right to vote for people of color, or the indefinite enforcements that do not allow them to discriminate on the basis of race or culture?
That is the biggest bill in that's the biggest bill in history. The ability to be able to vote, the rights of all the people to be able to vote every 25 years to ratify.
It's our most sacred right. It's our most sacred right, the right to vote. But ours expires in 2031.
Yeah. On purpose, for a reason.
Right.
Because if something happens and they need to get rid of our vote, then guess what happens? In 2031, it don't get renewed. And then guess what?
Right. That means the taxes are back in place to prevent, because the 1870 Voting Rights Act is in existence. However, the protections that don't allow them to discriminate or put certain measures in place is the amendments that keep getting renewed or extended. So without that means nobody can stop a state from imposing certain laws that don't allow you to vote or that discriminate against you based on certain criteria. So you went from 1870, when all men got the right to vote, to nearly 100 years later, 1965. So literally 95 years later, it took you to say, you know what? we really need to give them some protections, because even though all men have the right to vote, they're still not allowing people of color to vote. They're still putting restrictions in place. Why is that being renewed ever so often? But we got to protect democracy, right?
Benefits to keep the benefits. They can't give up all the goods, okay? They not listening. So, we've had these conversations. We've talked about a lot of different things when it comes to political conversations today, and we are going to continue to have these political conversations and continue to bring up to light those topics and those laws and rules and changes and regulations that are occurring that they're not talking about, so that we can help everybody to be able to make an informed decision this year. They saying that this is one of the most important elections that there is going to be to come. So if you're required to go out there and vote for somebody, at least know who you're going out there to vote for. Definitely make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for coming out and joining us. Whether you're watching it live or you're watching the replay, we definitely appreciate you. Always feel free to leave your comments about the show inside of the chat, and we'll definitely get back to you. Thank you guys for coming out, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good night.
Good night, y'all. Good night.
Have a great one.